All right, tell us what we have.
Well, apparently we have a really dirty chassis. One must have gone through some but we have two chassis, Wendell's and David's. One just got back from border town, USA. That would be like the border of Arizona and California, where Kevin at Pack Coast Powder is nice enough to meet us. So now we're gonna get all this stuff inside, out of the heat, and start assembling this chassis first. Welcome to your bi-weekly installment of the Tray 5 Customs shop tour. We'll start out with Wendell's. This is a 93 Chevy OBS. It just came back from Frank, where it got completely painted. We have, obviously the doors are on, fenders are on, hood's on. We can't really go any further with the front because the truck hasn't been buffed yet. We got the dash in. We test fit the Snowden seat. We're pulling it out right now because we're getting ready to throw in some Resto Mod membrane. This thing is running, driving, brakes are bled, moves under its own power, and we'll go back to Frank this week to start color sand and buff on it. Next vehicle that we can talk about here is John Vaughn's truck. This one came to us, if we haven't already told you, which I think we have, but in case you're not watching old videos, this is on a GSI chassis that High Test put together. So it's all plumb, it's all hardline. We got a Don Hardy engine in it already, but we had to do inner fenders, do brakes on the firewall, do the column mount, get all the steering hooked up. We got Hart Fab inner tubs here, and the Hart Fab panels here. This will have a smooth bumper on it, so we welded up those holes, tucked it in a little bit. But we basically built a new bed from scratch. Again, we worked with Hart Fab on these tubs just to speed up the process here. Unfortunately, it's summertime in Arizona and we run big swamp coolers. So we got a lot of surface rust on stuff. We just pulled the wood bed out of this, so we ordered the wood bed from Marquet to our specs and then put it in here, trimmed around the wheel tubs, but unfortunately for this video, it's already out. But you can see LS Fab hinges have been in, the coated digital mounts have been in. Because the chassis was already powder coated, we had to make a bolt-in mount for the bottom. All we have left to do on this truck before it goes to Frank is dial in all the gaps up front, so hood, the cowl corners, the cowl, the doors, the fenders, all that stuff needs to be gapped, and then this thing will be off to iCandy Paintworks. All right, next we have, this is Chris Stillwell's truck. This truck came in for basically a complete rebuild. So we're doing new chassis, new engine, new transmission. Luckily for us, chassis kind of sat right down on here. Unfortunately for us, Chris decided right when we started taking the truck apart that he wanted to change the engine as well. But since we have a good relationship with Mr. Don Hardy, he's gonna crank the engine out for us really quick. Inside the truck, the clutch master cylinder and the brake master cylinder and booster run under the dash. The brakes were really soft because the engine has a cam in it, made not a lot of vacuum, so vacuum booster doesn't do much. We're gonna change this over to an easier maintainable setup. We're gonna put an ABS power brakes unit on the firewall, which is what we've been using on other builds. And then he wanted to get rid of the 5-speed manual, so we're going to a 4L70 for this thing. So we'll get rid of the third pedal, put in a nice floor shifter for it. Brakes will be on the outside. We're gonna get a proper steering column for it. And then we'll be able to hopefully put most of the interior back together like nothing ever happened. Just like the cab, we lucked out with that thing going straight down on the frame. Back here, we're fairly lucky. We took all the wood bed that was in here out. The bed floor height is actually higher than it needs to be, which works in our advantage because we can, like right now we just have pieces of 2x2 stuck in here, but we can make a mount for this that we can actually weld to this frame, bolt to this, and then the bed will still be easily unbolted and taken out. We've already made some plans because this truck originally had the 2 VT AccuAir tanks back here, so when you pop down the tailgate you can see them. We're going to keep that in place, but we're going to do things like mounting the compressors to the bed, so that way that stuff doesn't have to get unhooked every time you undo the bed. So we'll have our E-level computer, the ECU, mounted underneath the bed. We'll be able to just unplug those 4 plugs, unplug 4 air lines. We're going to do some easy bulkheads on the side, so the bed will be a lot easier to pull on and off if you ever needed to. I think that does it for this truck. Let's do the crazy camera thing. Go ahead, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. No, come on, 1, 2, 3. Next, we have David's. This is a 55 Chevy truck. Obviously another GSI chassis for this build. This has the GM 525 horse LS3 backed by 6L80. This doesn't make a lot of sense right now. We've got white, pearl white here and a red engine, but we have our valve covers that we make, covers the coils and spark plugs and everything. And so that will make a lot more sense once it's in the truck. But when you look in the truck, you're mostly just gonna see a white engine. The red will kind of disappear down below. Vehicle number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Vehicle number 5, this is Marlin's. This is actually another 55 Chevy truck. So same chassis as David's, except this is the airbag version. So this is another one that came to us from High Test. The bulk of the work on this one is up front. So this truck had some really, really bad gaps when we put everything together. So we'll start by saying this is a brand new Premier cab and it's brand new sheet metal. And everybody knows, and if you don't, you will now, brand new parts fit like crap. Premier did not put the front and the back together. So it's not Premier's fault it doesn't fit. Gaps around the door the whole way have been addressed pretty much the entire way. We added a little cool little radius here. And then this is all moved around. I mean, he had the fenders off and was shrinking fenders and stuff to get it to go where it needed to be. You ready to go over here? This gives me anxiety. I don't like coming over here. This is Anxietyville over here. Owen's been working on his car a little bit. In the last video, I think the exhaust was in the same exact place. We got the 56 Ford. This truck came to us to just get a Gen 3 Coyote and a 10-speed swap. But we ended up doing all new rewire, all new plumbing, brake master cylinder, booster. We did bare brakes on it, and then we did the full interior, which this interior is pretty neat. When we got this truck here, the dash had a ton of holes in it. The steering column was really weird. There was just a lot of goofy stuff with it. So we got the okay from the customer to shave all the holes, and then Frank repainted it. So once we did that, and everything else was done, obviously, we went to interior, and this thing, I think, came out pretty cool. We put a new steering column in it because originally this thing had a 302 backed by like a C4 transmission or C6 transmission, and it had the shifter on the column. So we put a new column in it. This is the shifter that you get with that Connect package from Ford for the Gen 3 Coyote and the 10-speed. That's it for this truck because we didn't do anything else from here back, so there's no point in talking about it. I don't know if we talked about the Tahoe in the last video, but this is Chef's Tahoe. It was already lowered, but he wanted it a little bit lower. So we lowered a little bit more. We did the AZ Pro brakes on it. We did the Built Specialties wheels, small stereo in it, fixed up some of the dash, and rewrapped the dash. But Chef's kind of in between New York and Florida right now, so he wanted something to drive around in Florida. Wasn't super happy with the suspension, which I told him he wasn't going to be when he lowered it extra, but you know, he didn't want to listen to me that time. But anyway, it's back now because we just did a QA1 front setup. We're waiting on Travis over to AZ Pro because they're prototyping a rear link setup with coilovers for this truck. So as soon as that's ready, we're going to throw that on here. I think Chef's going to come out for the get down, drive it around, see if he likes everything. If he does, we'll start fixing dents like this and curb checks in the wheel that he did. Not to throw you under the bus there, but. All right, we got Manny's truck here. This was just dropped off. I don't know the whole backstory on it. I just know that it's here now, and we're gonna get it all finished up for him. As I understand, this was his dad's truck, or his dad said he was gonna give him the truck, something like that. He's had the truck for a while. Obviously, some work's been previously done. This has an LS7 under the hood. We just ordered a supercharger for the LS7, so we're gonna do that. We've got to rework some of the bed because he wants bedwood, and the hinge won't allow you to run the bedwood all the way to the front, the whole shebang. So we're gonna get going on this. As soon as Daniel's done with the 55, then we're gonna get on this. So that's it from our shop. Let's go see what Frank's working on. All right, over at Frank's, first thing you see is already outside. This is Brian's dually. They're either in 120 or 220 on the door. I know the whole other side was done in 220 earlier, so basically this side will get down to 220. Then we'll start tearing all the doors and fenders and all that, hood, everything off. And then we're gonna leave the cab on the frame. So the plan is to take the cab on the frame without anything else on it, tape it all off, and get the roof painted white. That way Frank can lay the truck out on the ground and reach the roof about as easy as possible. And then we're gonna pull everything else apart, pull the cab off of it, strip down the chassis, do any final welding we need to do. And then this thing's going to powder coat next Wednesday. And probably in 3 weeks, we'll be assembling a powder coated chassis and putting a painted body on it. So we'll see how that goes. That's the plan. Let's go. We've got, this is Derek's. This is a 57 Chevy, another one on a GSI chassis, 525 horsepower LS3. And basically it's getting blocked out and ready for final prime. So once they finish blocking it out, it'll get another round of primer, they'll chase that around, and then once they're done chasing that around, then it'll come apart for powder coat. They just moved this over, so now we don't have a good shot at Shane's truck anymore, but I think the idea is to get going on Shane's truck here real soon. So last video when we walked over here, I think that was under a cover and untouched. David's truck, we showed you the chassis earlier. That's the kind of grayish one with the red accents. The bed's over there in final prime. The cab and some of the other parts over there, which you can see the firewall, we'll go over there in a minute. So this is the square body that has the supercharged LT4. All of these parts are out for powder coat right now. Basically, this is kind of how we like to do stuff. So chassis out for powder coat. You can't really do anything else while it's out for powder coat, so this comes over here. Frank will do some light body work on this. We've already done a color match. And then this is just minimal body work, so this will only take like a day or so, and we'll go primer and straight into paint, hopefully. I lied, Brian's fenders aren't in primer yet. They look like they're ready for primer, so I'm not gonna touch them. We have David's parts, so more 55 Chevy. You see the firewall's already painted, it's already been buffed. The whole inside of the truck's already painted. It's already really dusty. So all the upper panels, the A-pillars, the B-pillars, the dash, the back, the doors, all put together. Those will get painted like this, so you can see it's all jammed out. But since it's a pearl white, the truck's gonna get mostly assembled. So that way when he's spraying his color, you don't get a different level of pearl on anything. Back sides of the fender, back sides of the hood are all done. And then in the booth, you can see some of the parts that we're painting. Radiator, which obviously needs to be taped off. Let's wrap this video up here. We haven't shown you this thing at all, mostly because we haven't done anything to it. This is Frank's little baby. Not very little, it's big. It's got 2 extra doors for some reason. I don't know why anyone would buy a Cadillac with 4 doors, but Frank's been painting this. All of his guys have been working on it, so a lot of the trim's back on it. But as soon as he's done painting it, it's gonna come over to us. And we're gonna clean up a lot of stuff under the hood. It's kind of jalopy under there. So that's it, that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching another bi-weekly video. I've done some stupid little live videos where I just use my camera, so you can check those out if you want to see me working on my 54 with my son. But other than that, we'll just keep these going because some of them do pretty good. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. See you later.